Hi, my name is Charlie Arrowwood. I use they, them pronouns, and thank you for viewing name and document changes for transgender New Yorkers. This training is current as of December 21st, 2021. The Gender Recognition Act, or GRA, will bring a lot of changes to the name change process. So this training will discuss the new procedures, but as things get implemented, some stuff may change. So keep an eye out for new trainings that will be publicly available. The name change process is kind of in steps in New York. You get your name change order from Supreme Court in the county where you live, if you live outside New York City. And then you also, for some documents, need a doctor's letter to change the gender marker. The big one is Social Security that requires that still. You want to ask for that early on so that you have it once you get your name change order, once the court piece is done. And I would say get 2 to 3 ink signed copies of that because the agencies do not accept scans or photocopies. So you're going through the court for your name change, you have your doctor's letter, and then once you have both of those documents, it's time to go and change each individual document. I refer to it as whack-a-mole. There are different standards for different documents, so just make sure that you are following the instructions for the specific document that you're trying to change and providing whatever is required there. The law in New York, the name change requirements are set out in statute in New York Civil Rights Law, Article 6, and most of the things that come up should not prevent you from getting a name change. It may just be a question of providing the court with some additional information. Judges have very little discretion to deny a name change, so they really can only deny it for fraud, or if you're like trying to evade a bill or a judgment or something, if there's any evidence of that. We're a common law name change state in New York, so you can go by whatever name you want to go by as long as it's not for fraudulent reasons, but it's impossible to get any of your documents updated without this court order at this point. So usage is a perfectly appropriate justification for getting a name change. I go by this name, I want my documents to match. So you can give that as the reason. If you're trans and you are comfortable putting that on the record, you can also say, I'm trans and I want my name to reflect my identity and appearance, and I want to be able to update my documents to reflect that. And they're really not supposed to deny it if you have a legitimate reason. Aliases and multiple names. If you have some documents that have a middle name, some that have a typo, anything that is not what's on your birth certificate, you want to include those names as AKAs in the caption, which is at the top of your order. And that's kind of the case name. So you want to include any document that you may need to change later that has a different name than the one on your birth certificate. You want to specify first, middle, and last if there's any doubt, so that the judge is actually giving you the name that you want. And make sure that it's correct in both the petition where you're asking for the name change and the proposed order that you're submitting, which is what they'll sign to actually change your name. Any judgments and liens against you that are filed in court need to be reported, but you don't need to list private debt like credit card debt, or even things in collections don't necessarily need to be listed. Only things that are actually judgments or liens. If you are a party to a pending legal proceeding, civil or criminal, if you're suing someone or being sued, you need to include enough information about the case for the judge to be able to order notice to that party, or look into things further to make sure that no one else needs to be notified. So that's going to be anything that can kind of help them to locate the case. If you have a criminal matter and there is a misdemeanor conviction or felony conviction, so red light violations, you don't have to worry about. Misdemeanor or felony convictions only need to be reported in a name change petition. If something has been tossed, so it's over and it was not a conviction, you do not need to put that in there. You want to attach a certificate of disposition, so not a full criminal record. You can get this from the county where the conviction occurred. And again, if it's a pending criminal matter that has not yet wrapped up and resulted in a conviction or a dismissal, that goes in that pending matters paragraph. Then back up top, if you have a bankruptcy, you can find the decision on PACER, which is the federal court kind of document database. And you'll just include that discharge of debt. Under the Gender Recognition Act, the court is not allowed to ask you for spousal consent as a condition of getting your name changed. You do need to declare child support and spousal support if you owe those, and the court will order you to notify child support enforcement or your ex or the court where the order was issued, but they'll let you know. If you're filing for someone under 18, someone over 18 needs to serve as petitioner, but it does not necessarily have to be the parent. The easiest way to do this is if you have one parent petitioning, the other parent provides an affidavit of consent. And then also if the minor is 14 and older, they also need to provide consent. But only notice is required by the statute. So if you have a minor who's looking for a name change, they can have a friend or relative who is not their parent be that petitioner. And then they just need to notify the parents of the filing. The court may set a hearing date to allow the parents to come and voice their discontent, but ultimately the standard is that the interests of the infant are substantially promoted by the change. And so for a trans kid, it's pretty clear at this point that changing your name, getting all your documents in line, and being able to move on with your life is in their interest. Even if the parents disagree, simply not being pleased about it is generally not enough to stop the name change from going through. Immigration. Everyone, whether documented or not, has access to the courts, but you want to make sure that someone's immigration status is current before they file. Talk to an immigration attorney in case there's a better way to go about things. There are circumstances in which you can change your name through the immigration process, but not for every type of application. So just confirm with an immigration attorney before filing if you have immigration concerns. As of December 21st, 2021, courts are no longer allowed to order notice to any immigration agency as a condition of getting your name changed. So you may still need to notify an immigration agency, depending on what your status is, what type of application you have pending, but it can't be the court ordering you to do that as a condition of getting your final orders. There's also no more publication requirement under the Gender Recognition Act. So you used to have to put your name change in the newspaper. You no longer have to do that. But this is a very new change, and courts have done this for a very long time. So you may still want to include information about why they should not make you publish. Put language about the new law in there. Explain why you have privacy and safety concerns. And the new law also allows you to ask the court to seal your records for privacy and safety. So that is, in the same spot, you want to explain, I would like my records sealed for my privacy and safety. I'm trans. There's a risk of violence against trans people. This should be private. It can make it more difficult to get certified copies later after you get your initial ones. But as the petitioner, you should still have access. Outside of New York City, it's $210 to file in Supreme Court in the county where the petitioner lives. If you can't afford the $210 fee to file, you can ask for a fee waiver. So you want to show the court lack of income, any benefits that you receive. If you are a student and that's why you don't have an income, that's why you're not paying rent, you can show them proof of school registration. And the same way you provide the court with that petition and proposed order for the name change, this is also going to be a petition for a fee waiver and a proposed order granting the fee waiver. So you want to make sure to include in that proposed order language that gives you 5 free certified copies. The clerk generally will listen to that because it's in a court order, and they will give you those certified copies. If you were born in New York, you need to include a certified copy of your birth certificate with the filing. And even if you were born outside New York, the court often wants that certified proof. But if you can't get your birth certificate and you were born outside New York, Often immigration documents or a passport will do the trick as proof of birth. If you need to get a copy of your birth certificate, you can do that from your local or state vital records office or a website called Vital Check, spelled CHEK. And it's a little bit more expensive than going directly through the vital records office, but it is an option. Also, during COVID, a lot of courts are requiring photo ID or proof of address in order to file. So some courts will have a list of things that they'll accept, but a piece of postmarked mail, school ID that has an address on it. There are a lot of different options that you have, and contact your local court if this is going to be an issue for you, if you don't have a photo ID that has your address. The court order that gets signed will tell you if you need to provide any notifications. If you do those by certified mail. It's that little green and white receipt. And then you bring that back to the clerk's office to get your certified copies. The price for certified copies varies by county, but often they're usually about $5 a piece. I would say, again, get like 5 at least so that you have what you need to update your documents. And don't remove any staples or receipts because that invalidates the certification. One thing that the Gender Recognition Act does, that's a really big thing. Some states, even though we do our birth certificate amendments through an administrative process, some states require a court order. And there are different standards for what language needs to be included in that court order. Before the Gender Recognition Act, judges said, we do things administratively, we don't have the authority to issue these sorts of orders. So people who were born in Texas, Utah, Indiana, all like 20 states require this. And they were left with no mechanism to update their birth certificate unless they found an attorney wherever they were born. The GRA now tells judges you can issue these orders. The problem is that every jurisdiction requires different language. So Legal Services of New York City has partnered with a pro bono firm, and they are putting together specific templates for every jurisdiction that requires this. So ultimately, it will be on LSNYC's website. I don't believe it's up there yet because this law is just going into effect, but you will be able to go to that website, say, I was born in Indiana, and it will give you the exact language that you should be asking for this with. This can be done with the name change at the same time or as its own thing. And just to clarify, if you were born in New York, there is no reason you need this order. Don't worry about getting it. This is just for folks who were born in a state that requires the order in order to get their birth certificate changed. As for document changes, again, we do things administratively here. So follow the instructions specific to the document you're trying to change. You've got that appropriate clinical treatment letter. It doesn't mean anything in particular. You could have just come out to your doctor, and it can be from any MD or DO. It does not necessarily have to be from a transition-related provider. You can update your documents in any order, even if the stuff that you're using as your proof of ID has the wrong information. As long as you have that court order dealing with the name piece, tying that all together, and then for the places that require it, you have that doctor's letter, it's fine if you are using an old birth certificate or old passport to show that you are you. There's no monolithic database that knows that you've changed your name when you walk out of that courtroom with your order. So you need to actually go and specifically change each separate document. One other thing is X-gender markers, which are kind of an administrative remedy for folks who are uncomfortable having female or male on their documents. It's already allowed on New York State and New York City birth certificates, and it will be available on New York State issued DMV IDs as of May 25th of 2022. And we anticipate passports will also be available early in the next year. They actually just issued their first X-gender marker passport to the plaintiff in the case that landed us in a place where this is now going to be available. That's everything. Thank you so much. Reach out to me at charlie@arrowwood.law if you have any questions or need to be pointed towards any resources. I wish you the best of luck, and I hope this was helpful. Thanks.